to determine whether or not this was in fact the case.
In their search for more information on the couple, detectives turn to Brian and Camithia's friends, and what they discover is eye-opening.
Camithia had a dark side to her.
Brian had dropped some lines to me about like, hey man, she's, Kim kind of crazy. We started seeing a change in their relationship, and she was being clingy, and I'm asking more questions about what he was doing and stuff like that.
Camithia always thought that he was looking for another person to be with.
Her behavior over Brian became controlling.
She's becoming more and more compulsive. You wake up in the middle of the night, she's in his phone. She's looking under the bed, she's looking in the closet, looking for something that wasn't there.
You're acting crazy! What did you just call me?
Friends say, despite the tumultuous nature of their relationship, Camithia even began pressuring Brian to get married.
For Brian, this was too much, and he began to feel suffocated in the relationship.
You know, Brian has a son and a daughter, and he was doing his regular Air Force job and school. And he just wanted a little time to himself sometimes.
So Brian decided to distance himself from Camithia.
I need some space. I need some space.
No, you can't leave, Brian.
No.
But Camithia wasn't having it.
There were times where we've been out and we saw Kim at different places.
She was popping up everywhere. Anytime he and his friends went out for drinks, went out to the club, anything, she was there, and it was quickly becoming a problem.
It was starting to sound like Camithia was the true stalker.
Friends say the situation came to a head on the night of January 16th, the same night Brian was killed.
It was a regular night. We went downtown, we were having drinks, listening to music.
Brian was in the club, and he was doing what they call the Texas two-step with this young lady. This young lady was the girlfriend of one of Brian's good friends. And her boyfriend is present as well.
But then Camithia showed up.
As soon as Camithia came face to face with the woman, all hell broke loose.
What the hell do you think you're doing? You're my man.
They couldn't believe that she had started a fight in the club.
Cold coming on? Shreveport detectives that her boyfriend, Brian Spinks, was killed by her jealous stalker, who she only knows as John.
He was trying to separate himself, she was trying to control him.
Brian's friends say Camithia's possessive behavior came to a head on the night of his death.
Brian had gone out with some of his friends, everyone was drinking, and then Miss Coleman appeared at that establishment.
She saw Brian hanging out with another woman who was actually just a friend and completely lost it.
What the hell you think you're doing? This is my man. You better stay away from her.
Camithia began screaming at her to stay away from Brian.
Don't tell me to relax. Don't tell me to relax. No, I don't even think of me, Brian.
People were trying to calm her down, telling her to relax. We pulled her out to the side and we're like, hey man, chill out. We're all having a good time. He cares about you, he loves you. Just relax.
Don't tell me to relax. Don't tell me to relax.
Camithia had clearly gone off the handle, and it didn't go unnoticed by Brian.
No, Brian. No, you're not done. You're not done. Don't walk away from me, Brian. Get up. Don't walk away from me. Get off of me. Get off of me.
He had had enough. That type of reaction from her, I think he just was fed up with it and was like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. At that point, Brian told one of her friends, like, look, just take me home.
On the ride home, Brian decided to end his relationship with Camithia for good.
Brian's friend stated that he had left a voicemail saying, I am done with you.
After speaking with Brian's friends, detectives think they now know the real reason Camithia went over to Brian's house that night.
If Brian finally pulled a plug on their relationship, it's likely that Kamithia was not there just to talk. She went to his home to confront him.
At this point, Kamithia Coleman has made the shift from innocent victim to suspect number one.
She does have every motive to do Brian harm.
They believe it's time to have another sit-down with Kamithia Coleman.
Investigators called Kamithia in with no trouble under the guise of following up on Brian's investigation.
Once she arrived, they informed her that she was now a suspect in Brian's murder.
What happened last night?
Well, I told you.
You do realize that if I prove that you're lying to me, that you're going to go to jail for the rest of your life. You do not come out of prison on a murder charge in Louisiana. I'm giving you the opportunity now to set the record straight, okay?
But Kamithia isn't budging.
She sticks to her original statement, saying John, her stalker, is the main suspect they need to be looking into.
What do you want? I mean, I told you.
One about that, to be honest, truth. How many times you guys have been knocked down, dragged out, getting into it?
Although Kamithia continues to insist she didn't kill Brian, she does admit that their relationship had become rocky in recent months.
I need some space.
I mean, we're dating, but I mean, we've been off and on for I don't know how long.
She also admits that she ran into Brian at the club that night, but says it wasn't planned.
We learned that Brian and Kamithia had made a pact if they were going to go out separately, not to go to the same establishment.
They both agreed that spending quality time away from each other was important for a successful relationship.
We just never go to the same club together. It was just our thing.
But Kamithia claims on the night of January 16th, she accidentally showed up at the same club Brian and his friends were already at.
When she saw him, she approached him and calmly asked him not to be mad at her.
I was calm. I just wanted to talk to him.
But it was no use. She said that Brian was livid.
Keep doing this. I need you to.
He was like, why were you there? And he was pissed. He was mad at me.
She advised that she had gone to the apartment to talk to Brian and try and calm things over because of what happened at the club, trying to work things out with him. But Brian was not having it.
I told you, you don't listen.
Kamithia says he began squeezing her hand very hard and it hurt.
He go. He just I told you.
She claimed that Brian grabbed her throat with one hand and started choking her.
Kamithia says she was eventually able to free herself.
You jerked away.
She said she was trying to get out of his apartment immediately.
Keep on like that.
Kamithia told investigators he had stabbed her several times before she could get away from him.
And I pushed him. And I was like, if I don't do something, you're not kill me.
So when she freed herself, she dashed to the kitchen to arm herself.
She then confessed to stabbing, however, stated it was self-defense because Brian attacked her previously and she was afraid for him to attack her again.
So I just did what I had to do.
So you just kept stabbing. When did this girl get cut? Because it was cut bad.
Once again, she blames that on this mysterious John character.
Oh, man. So you showed up in the middle of y'all fight?
I'm not even protect you. What can you do?
Kamithia stated that in an attempt to protect her, John took the knife away from Brian and began stabbing her harder and deeper.
Comethea says she begged him to stop, but John was insistent on killing Brian.
I didn't want to go that far. I was just trying to protect myself. I did not want to go that far.
But detectives know that Comethea's story doesn't add up.
All of the evidence collectively was telling that Comethea was the likely murderer, and John the intruder didn't exist.
At this point, Comethea realizes she's in hot water, so she decides to lawyer up.
I get some money, please.
That's what you want.
Time now is 09:21. Ms. Coleman is requesting an attorney. All tapes will stop at this time.
Regardless of Comethea's new story, investigators had enough to arrest her and charge her with Brian's murder.
But will justice ever be served in this case?
Comethea pleaded not guilty due to reason of insanity.
She was definitely putting on a show. What she had done, but initially, yeah, it was just a range of emotions of what could we have done differently that night, and wondering, you just wonder like what the hell was she thinking, what was going through her mind, what caused her to flip like that. Because this was somebody that he cared about, that we thought cared about him.
The commanding officer called me and he said, she's the one that did it. I said, no way. There's no way. He said, yes, no way did she do it. Yes, she did.
Even with Comethea behind bars, investigators are still discovering additional evidence against her.
A forensic medical examiner studies both Brian's autopsy report as well as Comethea's medical records from the night of the murder.
What they determined was that Comethea's 5 stab wounds were self-inflicted.
Investigators can only assume that Comethea stabbed herself to make it look like she acted in self-defense.
And in the months leading up to trial, Comethea continues going to extreme lengths to avoid taking responsibility for Brian's death.
Comethea pleaded not guilty due to reason of insanity. She stated that she blacked out and was completely unaware of what she had done to Brian.
And in July of 2011, she was found to be mentally incompetent to stand trial.
It takes more than a year from Brian's murder for Comethea to undergo enough psychiatric treatment to be deemed fit for trial.
She went to 3 different doctors for competency, and one of the doctors said that she was lingering, and they kind of knew that that she was acting as if something was wrong with her when there was nothing wrong with her. She was definitely competent and was putting on the show, basically.
On April 23, 2012, Comethea Coleman finally stands before judge and jury.
Comethea stands by her plea of not guilty due to self-defense. She claims she was in a very abusive relationship with Brian, and that night was only the last in a long history of violent nights.
Brian was the opposite of violent. When her defense started saying that, we knew it was way far from the truth, that any of that would have ever taken place.
We were all in pain, watching them trying to make my son into a woman abuser with no evidence. She never told anybody she ever got hit, no scratches, no bruises, no reports, no nothing.
When it's their turn, prosecutors describe what they believe actually happened the night Brian was killed.
They believe that Comethea went to confront him about the incident at the club.
Please, I just want to listen. What is
Over. Brian said that things are over, and that's when she decided that if she couldn't have him, no one would.
Prosecutors believe that once Brian's back was turned, Comethea grabbed a knife from the butcher's block and stabbed him in the back.
They argued that then Brian stumbled into the living room where Kamithia continued her vicious attack, stabbing him so many times that the knife broke.
Kamithia could have stopped there.
But she went back and retrieved another knife after the first steak knife was broken. And she continued to stab him and stab him and stab him.
And then when she felt like Brian wouldn't survive, she called 911 to appear like a concerned girlfriend.
However, Kamithia didn't expect Brian to start speaking when she was on the phone with 911.
Concerned that he might say something that gave her away, prosecutors believe that then, with one final push, Kamithia inflicted the fatal wound to Brian's throat to keep him quiet.
During the trial, the coroner pointed out that Brian could not have verbalized those words with the damage that was done to the front part of his throat, which means that damage was done to his throat after she made the phone call.
Prosecutors believe that in order to sell her self-defense claim, Kamithia turned the knife on herself and made up the bogus story about John the Stalker to lead police off her trail.
They believe her story about John was completely fabricated and he did not exist.
A lot of people ask me like, he was in the military, why didn't he fight her off? He's not a fighter. He's not an aggressive person. Some of the defense marks that we found out there on him, he was clearly just, balled up, trying to survive, trying to live.
When the jury retires to deliberate, they side with prosecutors.
They unanimously found Kamithia guilty of second-degree murder.
Kamithia Coleman is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
She got what she deserved. She does not need to be on the streets anywhere for the crime that she committed.
When you hear the words, there is joy, but not joy in a happy way. More a joy and relief that none of the lies that she said the jury believed. Relief that justice has been, served. And that his family could, start the grieving process, start moving on.
Nobody wants anything that matters. 2 families lost their children forever. Yes, she's in jail the rest of life, but what did anybody win? It didn't bring Brian back.
The world lost a good person, a person that really cared about the people that were in his life.
Brian was crazy about that young lady. And that's the part that hurts. He was murdered by somebody he loved.